Okay, so let's take a look at Sysomos, which is a very powerful social media search engine. And it allows us to do some very sophisticated social listening online, which is these days one of the best forms of research. So here's the home page, which is just talking about social activity in general. What I'm going to do is hit the modify box. And right now we're working on a big project for Snapple. So I'm going to put in Snapple and hit apply, analyze now. Now what it's doing is it's showing me all the social activity that's going on for Snapple. What's happening in blogs, what's happening in Twitter, what's happening in forum, what's happening in news. It breaks out those blogs in terms of how many mentions are happening on which dates, whether the sentiment behind the brand is favorable or unfavorable. The good news is there's lots of favorable sentiment around Snapple. Where that conversation is happening geographically, obviously in the United States because it's really a US brand, and by gender. On blogs, mainly males, 64% are talking about Snapple. It breaks down tweets similarly, news, forums, videos, and other social areas such as Instagram and Facebook and Google+. It even gives us a word cloud and buzz graph in terms of what words are related to other words in these social mentions. If I want to look at the actual social mentions, I can click on social media, give this a minute to load. And now we're looking at the actual tweets. Many of these from 28 seconds ago, 49 seconds ago, a minute ago. And we can scroll down and see them all the way back to whatever our timeline is. At the top, it's preset for the last 3 months. And we can change that if we like. It also allows us to go through those tweets to see which are the most authoritative, which are the most retweeted. Going down, it allows us to look at a sentiment summary, how many positive, how many negative. Sentiment affinity in terms of what the positive and negative words are being used and how they're related. We can look at YouTube videos about Snapple, other videos, what's happening on Flickr in terms of pictures people are putting up, forums, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, on and on. Now what we might want to do is modify this a little differently. So for example, one of the key things about Snapple is the Snapple fact. So I'm going to use what they call a Boolean search, where you put in things like and or. So Snapple and Snapple fact. I'm putting this in quotation marks because there's a space between the two words, and we wanted to look for exactly those two words together, Snapple and fact. Okay, I hit analyze now. And now what it's showing me is specific tweets about not just Snapple, but the Snapple fact. Okay? I might want to modify that even further. I can add a filter. I can go to demographics, for example. And I might decide, okay, I want to add a country. I definitely want to be in the US because it's a US brand. I'm going to go down to USA. Now, Snapple is really big in the northeast of the US, but it doesn't sell very well throughout the rest of the country. I mean, it sells okay, but not like in the northeast. So I might be interested in California. So I've now got that. I want to go and analyze Snapple and Snapple fact in California. Now, for example, I'm looking at these tweets. And I'm scrolling through them. And here's something really interesting. I'm trying to come up with a creative solution for Snapple. Well, maybe one of the best solutions has already been come up with by Katie A. Causey. She says perhaps the real Snapple fact was all the friends we made along the way. That's a great piece of social listening that tells you that not only is Snapple fact a real brand equity that we can build on, but maybe the most important fact is the relationships friends have when they're drinking it and drinking it together. That might lead us to an advertising campaign. So here's an example of how to use Sysomos. And we can use it for any brand or anything that we're looking up online. We can look at it for social media, blogs, traditional media. And again, the reason these are saying no search queries found is because California is not a big market. If I change that and I go back to Snapple, and I go back to my demographics, and I change California to be any, I'll expect that to change. So I analyze now. Give this a minute to load. Now if I look at blogs, there are lots of blogs talking about Snapple, as I'd expect. Traditional media, lots of traditional media talking about Snapple, as I would expect. So again, there's how you use Sysomos. It's a wonderful tool, and it's an example of many different types of social media tools that you can use. This is expensive and you pay for it. You can use something like Hootsuite, which doesn't have these features, but which is free. Okay, thank you very much.